I've been here for 5 years. I've seen a lot of nasty things.
Do
the Afghan laws not mean anything? Or you just do whatever? You can't just make up laws.
We have to recognize Afghanistan will not be a perfect place.
I'm not supposed to do this. I'm just pushing my way through because I'm tired of fucking waiting.
So the court is relying on the forged signature and the illegal documents for their decision? Is that what he's saying?
Every system is corrupt. But yeah, there's certain levels. This is at extreme. Really, asshole, you have to honk? Jackass. I'm not gonna talk right now because I want to listen to my music, please.
Excuse my charisma, vodka with a spritzer, swagger down pat, call my shit Patricia.
I came here for the money, and I'm not ashamed to admit that, and it just became something else.
So misunderstood, but what's the world without enigma? Two bitches at the same time, synchronized swimmers. Got the girl twisted cause she open when you twist her. Never met the bitch, but I fuck her like I missed her.
Well, nothing's worth it. To die anywhere when you have kids. Where are the babies?
Babies are in La La Land snoring. Literally.
Say cheese.
And with the US troop pullout almost complete, government officials fear that the worst is yet to come.
I can't let this stuff affect me because I'm gonna keep doing this. Let's go do our superhero thing. So who would you be?
Spider-Man. Not the new one, the Tobey Maguire.
I think I would want to be Wonder Woman.
Good morning. When I was trying to figure out what to talk about today, I decided that I'll just talk about my week. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk, is I want you to aspire to live a life without borders. So hashtag borderless life, tag me on that. I want to talk to you about my girl Layla. Layla was a young woman that lived in Austria, and she was so excited. She had a boyfriend, she had a job, she was going to school, and her family told her that they were going to Afghanistan to go to her brother's wedding. So she took off work, took off school, and told her boyfriend that she'll be back in 2 weeks. When Layla got to Afghanistan, her parents told her, you know, actually, he's not getting married. You're getting married, and they locked her in her house. She was sent to a very small province in Afghanistan, in a very remote part of the country, and she didn't know what to do. In 2008, I went to Afghanistan. And when I went there, this is the first thing that I saw coming off the airport, a burqa. And for me, I had very, very negative connotations attached to a burqa. I don't like them. And it's a very confronting image to see right in your face. It's scary, and it's something that even to this day I'm not quite used to. However, as scary as it was to see my first burqa, what was even scarier was when I went to the first trial. And in the first trial, basically, I was sent there to train and mentor Afghan defense attorneys. So I was sent to Afghanistan to capacity build the legal system. And so part of my process, I thought, is I wanted to go look at trials and see what's going on in the court systems. So the first trial I went to was in the National Security Court. It's basically the terrorist court. And in the terrorist court, I was sitting there, the first foreigner to ever go to a trial there, and they bring this guy in, and he's shackled by his hands and his feet, and they have a bag over his head. And so as court starts, the police officer ceremoniously rips the bag off his head, and that's how court begins. The story for this guy is that basically he was a taxi driver, and the police, the government of Afghanistan with our US tax dollars had just built this nice shiny new terrorist court, and when you build a nice shiny new thing, you need to use it. And so the police stopped this cab, and there were 4 or 5 other people that were in the cab, and they found guns and phones in the cab. Now, taxis in Afghanistan almost run like an Uber pool where people share the same cab. And so after stopping this cab, the police officer determined that the cab driver was a terrorist. Now, in court, the judges and the prosecutors read off what the guy was being accused of. They didn't find any phone number of terrorists on his phone. They didn't find any text messages on his phone to terrorists or from terrorists, but they were labeling him as a terrorist. And finally, it was this guy's turn to speak. And the first thing the illiterate taxi driver said was, "I am not a terrorist. If I'm a terrorist, bring the person who's calling me a terrorist right here before me," not realizing that he was invoking his right to confrontation. The guy and the prosecutors held up a confession, and they said, "You signed this confession. You said that you're a terrorist." And he said, I don't know how to read and write. I was just working that day. They beat me. They look at my arms, look at my bruises. They beat me. They made me sign that. I have no idea what that says." So the judges nervously started looking at me, and with that, the judge pounded on the table, and he said, "Don't disrupt me." And that was it. Anything else this guy had to say was done. His trial was done, and 2 minutes later, he was given an 8-year prison sentence and labeled a terrorist for life. Now, from this experience, that always stuck in my mind, don't disrupt me. So I decided to go around the country and visit prisons and go to different trials, and I found that this just wasn't an issue with this guy, but it was an issue with a lot of different people. And so I decided to quit my job, and I decided to fight for what I call is justness. And what justness means to me is using the laws to protect. The role of laws is to protect. And I met a lot of people that had the laws, but they were not being afforded the right for those laws to be used to their benefit. So justness became my truth. And so I decided to open a legal practice, and now what has started in Afghanistan has now expanded to pretty much every continent except for Antarctica. So if anyone knows of someone that's going through divorce in Antarctica, a scientist, and needs something notarized, I'd love to check that box. But justness has become my truth. And also, with my practice, I'm a private for-profit company. And so the way that works is I represent a lot of international businesses, international NGOs, but I also represent a lot of individuals. And so about 30% of my work is pro bono human rights cases. And I am an international litigator. However, I call myself a global investor in human rights. And I do that by representing the paid clients, but also representing those like Layla who also have the right to have an attorney to protect them. I believe that the reason why justness is hard to achieve is that there's 3 problems. Number one, people are very uneducated to what their rights are, and that's an issue. The second issue with achieving justness is that even with good laws on the books, there's a lack of people that are willing to fight for those laws, whether there's lawyers or individuals. And the third issue with achieving justness in places like Afghanistan is even with good laws in the books, sometimes those laws are superseded by cultural norms. And so I fight to change those things. Now with Layla, it's important to note that human trafficking is a $32 billion business per year. There's over 2.4 billion people on this planet without identification. And that's one of the first things they did to Layla, is they took her identification from her and they ripped it up, and that's how part of the reason why she was in prison and at home. Well, Layla's a smart girl, and she managed to sneak a phone. And she managed to steal a SIM card that allowed us to have access to one another through WhatsApp messages. And so Layla sent me a message. "Miss Motley, are you awake? I'm in my bed and hear the gunshots. They're shooting all around. Don't worry about that. Relax. That has nothing to do with you, Layla." "Okay, I'll relax. I'm scared." "Good. So tell me, what's your favorite thing to eat in Vienna?" "I love McDonald's, haha. The fish smack is the best ever. I miss it so much. You will not believe me, but I eat so much, but I'm only 46 kgs. My God, you're tiny. Okay, I promise you, I have a promise. I will buy you as many fish smack meals in Vienna as possible. Deal?" "Deal." We didn't know where Layla was located. So there were kids in the house, other cousins in the house. Every now and then they would allow Layla out of the house. And what she would do is she would have her little baby cousins go outside and ask them, what do you see outside? They would come back and say, we see a school. We see a shop. What's the name of the school? So finally, we were able to pinpoint where her location was in Afghanistan. When we did this, Layla then reached out again, and because they didn't know she had a phone, she had to go to the bathroom and sneak the phone, and that's how we would communicate with one another. And so Layla ran to the bathroom again, and I said, is this your location? And I showed her a picture of the door. She said, yes. The problem is that the plan was that Layla was going to be forced to be married to this guy, and then after she married him, he was going to immediately take her to Pakistan, and then she was going to be a ghost to us. So because she didn't have full access to her phone, and it was so sporadic, I would sleep with my phone on my chest, and it's whenever she reached out. So I heard a buzzing at 3 a.m., and I woke up and I looked at my phone. He raped me. Layla, I'm so sorry. Focus on escaping. Cooperate. We're close. I think they suspect something. Okay, just relax. And that was it. For 2 days after that, we didn't hear anything from Layla. Part of my practice is it's very global. So whether I'm in Uganda or Afghanistan, I travel around the world to different countries to try to spread my seeds of justness, because I try to work to civilize the economy. I try to live beyond my borders. I believe that the economy is meant to serve the good of the people, and it's not the other way around. And I believe in rule of law, but I also understand that rule of law means absolutely nothing if there's no role of laws. And so during this whole process of talking with Layla, I actually was in trial in Majorca. Majorca is a small island off the coast of Spain. And finally, my guys were outside her apartment. But the thing about it is she was located in a 4-story building, and she was on the 3rd floor. And so because she wasn't allowed out of the apartment, we just kept guys parked outside there. Finally, it was the morning of when she was supposed to go to Pakistan, and we are watching the house like a hawk. We knew that she had an appointment at 2 p.m. at the Pakistani embassy to get her passport because they were giving her a visa. And we were hoping that they would take her to the embassy so that she could pick up her passport. And so while I was in trial in Majorca, I reached out to her. Layla, dear, I typed, yes, it's time. Are you wearing the black clothes like I told you? Yes. Look out your window. Do you see the gray car? Yes. Those are my guys. When you get in the car, we have a burqa in there for you, okay? Okay. I'm scared. I know. While we were sitting there, we kept seeing people leaving the house. And we were hoping for a 2 o'clock meeting that Layla would also leave the house, and then we would follow her to the Pakistani embassy, and then she could get into the car. The problem is that at 2 o'clock, 4 people left the house, and not one of them was Layla, because they planned on just trying to get her visa without her. They didn't want to risk it. Layla, dear, yes, 4 people just left your house. I know, they won't let me go to the embassy. Who's all in the house? My 2 aunts and the kids. Layla, get in the car. I can't. I'm scared. Do you have your headphones? Yes. Put them on, and in 5 minutes, go to the bathroom. I'm going to send you a voice note. I had to wait because I was in trial in Majorca. I didn't tell her that. Finally, the judge gave us a break. And I left Layla a voice note. Layla, listen to me very carefully. You have 5 fucking minutes to get into the car. If you don't get into the car, I swear to God, we will leave you forever. I am not coming to Pakistan to look for you. You get your ass in the car right now, or I swear to God, I'm tired of this shit. You get in the car now. Send. Miss Motley, please don't leave. That's what she texts. 4 minutes. Get in the car. Please, Miss Motley, I'm scared. 3 minutes and we're gone forever. 2 minutes went by, and finally Layla came running out to the car. And we drove her to safety, slapping that burqa on her. And in a couple weeks, I'll take her back home. Based on my experiences with different Laylas around the world, based on my experiences with different people around the world, I recognize that there's a bigger calling. There's over 700 million females that are forcibly married as kids. Human trafficking is an issue, $32 billion industry, and I recognize that all these problems are not just confined to Afghanistan, but they represent bigger global issues that we need to address, that it's my responsibility to address, that it's my responsibility to live beyond my borders to address. And so as a result, I decided to start disrupting a little bit more, and I've created a comic book called The Disruptors. And the purpose of this comic book is to educate about different issues that are happening in the world, to inform about the laws, and also to entertain. And I have samples of it in case you guys want one. And because I want to address the fact that laws need to be more accessible to people, it's hard and soft copy, and I've created a website called lawsforme.com. And basically this website is an open source, free legal website where people have access to their laws. I have learned in my experiences in Afghanistan and beyond that I need to live beyond my borders. I encourage you to challenge yourselves, to challenge your comfort zones. People will always try to confine you if you let them. Aspire to live a borderless life. Aspire to help others. Aspire to look at things a little bit differently than what they are. And don't judge a burqa by its cover. Because sometimes under that burqa is a young woman that's trying to get a fish mac sandwich at McDonald's. Thank you.